Welcome everyone to the next in the series of Resilient Nonprofits, conversations that Intersector Partners is having with nonprofits around the Denver metro area about resiliency during these unprecedented times that we're experiencing. Today, I'm really excited to have Imani Latif join us. She is the founder and executive director of It Takes a Village in Denver. Imani and I know each other through her work in the HIV community, although It Takes a Village does so much more, which she'll talk about. But Imani's been on the front lines of HIV work since the 80s, really focusing on promoting education, prevention, care, and treatment, in addition to all the other great work she does. And what I personally love about the It Takes a Village model and why I wanted to have Imani join us today is that programming at It Takes a Village is developed with the voices of the community. It's not a group of staff saying, here's what we think is needed. It's truly from the community that it serves, helping to develop the programming. And also Imani employs many people from that community as well, which I think is a really great addition to the model. So welcome, Imani. Thanks for joining me.
We are in Aurora. We're not in Denver.
You're in. That's right. I'm sorry. Yes. It's close. Okay, tell us about It Takes a Village, how it came to be, and what It Takes a Village does.
Well, like you said, I have been involved in HIV work since 1986, starting in the New York City Health Department when we were really at the height of the epidemic. And I started working, I promised myself that I would not continue in the HIV field once I moved out to Colorado, just because I had lost a lot of people and it was a very, very hectic time. But a month later, I started working with an AIDS service organization out here, and I haven't stopped since. One of the things that I noticed, though, was that there wasn't a place where people could go and feel comfortable no matter who they were. And I'm talking specifically about people of color, the transgender community, people coming out of jail or prison, those kinds of things. And so I wanted to start something like that. I wanted to be a place where people felt it was like a home away from home. And so, and then I also realized that Aurora, and that's why I mentioned Aurora, Aurora did not have any kind of AIDS service organization or any nonprofit that really provided services to that population. So here we are, 18 years later.
It's incredible. What does the organization do now? I know that you work on a broader range of health disparities now, in addition to HIV. So what are some of the kinds of programs and services that you offer?
Well, you know, everything is connected. Everything's connected. When we talk about providing services to prevent the spread of HIV, it has everything connected to it. It has trauma, racism, incarceration, addiction, African-American women with lack of available partners because of the disproportionate rates of incarceration among Black men. So we deal with a lot of different issues. We deal with substance abuse. They're all connected to our experiences as Black people. So when somebody comes in, they might be coming in for an HIV test, but they're going to also be given information about a lot of the other programs that we're dealing with that might necessarily impact their risk. So one thing that we did do was and we did it right at the beginning, was to address the elephant in the room among African Americans and the HIV field, and that was lack of services for African American gay men and the LGBTQ community in the Black community. this is a tremendous number of people who have felt not included within the Black community and not included within the white gay community. And the numbers of HIV, the numbers were going through the roof among African American gay men. And so we started a program called Brothers Forever. And again, like you said, with the inclusion of the population, we held focus groups. And this was really the first time that this population had been asked to please come together and tell us what you need, what you want, what that would look like. And we held focus groups, and it was put together by me, but with a gentleman named William Lewis, who put together several focus groups, and we just simply asked them, what do you need? And they said, we need to be able to come together in a safe space. We need to talk about what our experiences as Black men are like and what our experiences as Black gay men are like. And I'm so proud of that because it's 18 years later and it's still the longest running and probably the most successful program for gay men in the state of Colorado, and it's for African.
So you were thinking along those lines before we were using the term intersectionality on a daily basis. You saw the need for those connections to be made.
Right. It impacts all the different segments of our community, whether people like that or not. It intersects with women and with youth, and it's just this is a very important segment of our population that was basically being ignored or being shunned or being turned out by their parents, or this is part of our homeless community. This is part of our incarcerated community. It's a part of our professional, professors and lawyers, and I mean this. So when this group comes together, it's not just people just got out of prison. It's not just people that are having drugs. It's people that are a lot of times not out in the community among their professional peers. So I mean that's an example. We also started a program called Transaction, which is for transgender women of color who are being infected at a high rate, but also were being abused and murdered and trafficked. And we had focus groups, we had surveys, we always hire people that reflect the community that we serve. And so that has been a program that's gone on since 2007, where we help people who are transitioning and help people who have already transitioned and might be having difficulty with jobs and with their families, etc. So those are some of the things that we do.
That's fantastic. And I have been to your site when I was doing a medical case management project for the Denver office, or the Denver HIV resources
program, yeah.
Sorry, things have changed names and it's been a bit since I've worked with them. But there was very much activity in your space and people coming into the space and engaging with each other in person in your space. So as COVID hit in the middle of March, how did things change for you at the organization? Have you continued to offer programs and services? How are you doing that?
Well, March 16th was our last day in the office until June 1st. I sat down with the staff, and the same way that we develop programs is how I run our organization. We sit down with the whole staff. The staff represents the community as well, and we get ideas. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? What is it going to look like? And we decided that, we were going to be closed. The office would be closed, but the services would not.
Hmm.
So our medical case managers and our addictions counselors and some of the other staff took their computers home, and we did medical case management and financial assistance requests. We did it via Zoom and we did it via phone. We got a lot of applications processed for financial assistance. We did recovery groups by Zoom, and we still are doing recovery groups by Zoom. We did psychosocial groups by Zoom, and we are still doing Brothers Forever, the same group that I was talking about, every Monday and Thursday night by Zoom. We have a program called Community Without Walls, which addresses men and women who are incarcerated and getting out and are living with HIV. And of course, being at higher risk because they're compromised, we put many of them in hotels so that they would not have to stay in a shelter. And every week we go to Project Angel Heart, which is a godsend. It's just an amazing organization. And they, for years, have given us food that serve our homeless clients. We go there every Wednesday, pick up food, and then one of the medical case managers would bag it up for 7 days and deliver it to the clients who are in motels.
Wow.
Other than HIV testing, we really didn't miss a beat. But I noticed that when I was in the office, and I came quite often, and sometimes I would come and there would be like other staff in there. I'm like, what are you doing here? I would still see people pulling on the doors, like thinking that we were open. It really, really made me feel bad because we serve so many. We feed people in the community. We have clothing for people in the community, and I knew the community was missing us a lot. But
such a hard time for nonprofits to have to close your doors when people need you the most, and that's why you exist.
Yes. And it was pretty sad, and what I would still do is I would go and I'd have my mask on and everything, and I would just say to them, food, and they'd say yes, and I'd say, okay, hang out outside, I'm gonna go heat it up for you, but anyway, we're back. It was very difficult, I think, on the staff, and it was very difficult on clients. We get a lot of client mail, so we were making a lot of trips in because there were some people who were getting their stimulus checks and they were wondering whether to, so yeah, I mean, it was a very challenging time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're back in the office and can see people in person now. What a great shift. Did you receive any additional funding to support It Takes a Village during this time through COVID funding from the state or any other additional funding?
Well, I mean, we got the PPP loans to support salary. We also, through the Denver Office of HIV Resources, got some COVID money to help with expenses related to that. And what we actually did was when we came back to work, we only came back staggered hours. So we are open now Monday through Thursday. Some staff are in every Monday and Wednesday, some staff are in every Tuesday and Thursday. And we're gonna do that and kind of see what are the numbers looking like after reopening the state. I think that we've seen some spikes, but we want to kind of just do that and watch the numbers and see how it goes before we totally open back up. But the medical case managers were saying, okay, now our computers are back here at the office and we're still working at home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So with that COVID money, we bought laptops for them to use at home.
Great.
We bought a lot of PPE. We are doing HIV testing, and again, we had the input of the staff, and we came up with, I think, a great system where there's a computer set up in our conference room. Clients that are seeing medical case managers or are getting testing initially go on Zoom and talk to the counselor or their case manager, and then the HIV testing counselor at the end will come in and just be in the conference room with them for a few minutes to do the actual test.
Okay.
Everybody has masks. We take their temperature when they come in. We ask them the questions. All staff has on masks, and the testers have on the shield.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the sanitizer, all of that. We've been using it towards COVID related stuff. Haven't used any of that towards the client motel stays because we are very pleased and blessed to have support from the Center for Health and Hope, which gives us money for that, for motel stays.
Wonderful. Well, Imani, in the midst of all of this, we've also had what I read this morning as being termed the largest civil rights movement of our time.
Not of my time.
Not of your time.
I'm old.
Experienced. How has the impact of the murder of George Floyd and the subsequent protests and movements around the country and around the world impacted the people you serve and your staff team, your board? How has that layered onto what you've been experiencing with COVID? How's everybody doing?
It's really challenging emotionally. I keep saying that our staff and our board as well reflect the people we serve. You know, we don't hire somebody. I mean, all of our staff are qualified, they have the education and everything, but many of them are living with HIV, many of them have been incarcerated, many of them, including myself, are in recovery. You know, so we understand our community, and you know, we have a very, very diverse, ethnically diverse staff and board. This whole thing with George Floyd has been very emotional. We've had conversations about it because finally it seems like other people are getting it. Finally, it seems like maybe something will be done about this evil that's permeated our communities for forever. I'm the daughter of a police officer. My dad served for 27 years in New York City Police Department. My sister, 21 years.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, so they would often talk about the racism that permeated the police force, even towards Black officers. When I say it's emotional because we all watched that video and we all heard him call for his mom, and we saw the look on the officer's face as he looked down on him, knowing that he was probably pressing on his artery and killing him. And I think we all were kind of concerned and afraid of the response to that, especially when the protests started growing and there was some looting, because we know too that there's a very, very important election this year. And how is that going? How is all of this going to impact this very important election that is life or death for people in our community?
Yes.
And so we watched it. I watched it and thought, we got to get this right. Karen, then I saw the outpouring of love and support from people of all races, religions around the world. And I thought, this might really be, you know, turn out to be a good thing. You know, not Mr. Floyd's death,
Of course.
but he sure didn't die in vain. And so we're kind of taking that kind of a cautious, hopeful expectations that maybe, you know, some of this would change. I know quite a few staff were out protesting, and one of the things that I told them on one of our staff meetings was, we're home because we don't want to get COVID. Let's not go out and protest and not wear masks, and you know what I mean? We still got to come back to work, which is the thing that's most important. But yeah, we have quite a few African American men working with us, and women, and Latino women, and Caucasian women and men. And I think a lot of it has to do with we feel together. Like we feel like we all want to be out there demonstrating. We all want to be out there protesting. You know?
It's such an interesting perspective, and one I haven't heard, where when talking with nonprofits, where you have a community built in of support for each other, whereas other African American folks or people of color might work in an organization where they are the only person of color or one of very few trying to muddle through all of this. You
know what? I was in that situation. I won't say names, but when I first got here to Colorado, there was only 2 African Americans and staff of 50 at the ASO that I worked at. And the year that I started there was the year that OJ was on trial. And I never will forget the day that they had the verdict. And there were a bunch of us sitting in a room. And, you know, regardless of what you think, I think there's a really good chance that he was guilty. But to be in that room and hear the response from all of my white coworkers to his acquittal, and people were saying things because they weren't thinking, they were angry, and I'm sitting in there and I'm saying to myself, wow, this is really how they feel about me.
Wow.
So it's way different with our staff. I think that our clients have really taught a lot of our staff a lot. You know, we have staff that maybe didn't work with the gay community, and now they totally, you know, go to Pride Fest and they totally understand. You know, and then we've had some staff that, well, when we hire people, we ask them specifically, what has been your experience with communities of color, with incarcerated, things like that, and we really listen. But this whole experience in the last few weeks has really been, I think, almost bonding to us. Yeah, I think it's been almost bonding to us. I still don't know how it's going to end up, you know, because there's so many twists and turns, because there are so many different operatives. You know, you had a bunch of folks that kind of got embedded into the protesters, who were primarily white folks that were there just to loot. Who knows who they were? They could have been undercover. They could have been whoever. But
right.
Now that whole time has passed and they're not really doing that anymore, I think I'm hopeful that I don't think we need to defund the police departments. I think we still need the police departments. I think we need to just change the whole way that they're operating and change how they respond in communities. There was a police chief from Camden, New Jersey, which totally, they did defund and took apart, they dismantled their police department and did it over again so that law-abiding people in communities of color didn't have to worry about, being abused because they look like folks that may be doing some crime. I'm the mother, wife, grandmother, aunt of Black men. And I'm petrified when they go out. I'm also petrified for a lot of our clients who are African American and who've been through the criminal justice system. Many of them who I believe didn't do much to end up doing years in prison, nonviolent, drug using kind of crimes, and just spent years in prison. So I'm cautiously hopeful that things are going to change. I'm very, very appreciative to the folks that are out there on the front lines. I've been there in the past, and I haven't done it this time, and our allies.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. As you think about what has made It Takes a Village so resilient through this latest civil rights moment maybe, and through COVID experiences, what do you think it is about the organization that has allowed you to be resilient or bounce back from these challenging times?
I think it's a combination. Well, we do a lot of planning.
Mm-hmm.
I always have a plan A through Z. Like, okay, if this doesn't work, then this. But I think it's our staff and the people that we serve. The community feels as though It Takes a Village is their home. We have a lot of clients who are not connected with their family for whatever reason. We have a lot of clients who come out of prison, and many of them say, "You guys are my family." We have had memorial services at It Takes a Village where we just changed that whole front area to look like, with the rows of chairs and a big table in the front with flowers and candles and the big picture of the person for folks whose families don't claim them after they die.
Oh, that's
We've
beautiful,
had
Amani.
memorial services. We've had, and we really are the families that most of them don't have or can't serve. And so I think we're so committed. And I know there are other organizations that are very committed, but when I look at, and we're very good at keeping boundaries, but when I look at our clients, I see who could have been my uncle, who could have been my brother, who could have been my child, and I want them to have a chance at life. I look at many of them and say, gosh, there but for the abuse they suffered as a child, or there but for the drug use of their parents, or there but for, they could be so successful and so brilliant. And I want them to have it as much as they can have it. And so we're very client-centered. What can we do to help you live your best life? And we've succeeded with a lot of people, and some people we haven't. But that's always the goal, And I always tell folks, particularly people who have had a long history of incarceration, you can have a normal life. You can be happy. And we have one client in particular who's been a client since we started. And he was told, he told me, he said, my mom used to beat the gay out of me. He was so physically abused growing up that he developed schizophrenia, he developed all kinds of mental illness. And so he spent a lot of time in and out of prison because of the substance use, sometimes using drugs to deal with his illness. Now he's been out of prison for 4 years. This is the longest time he's ever been out of prison. He has his own apartment. He's getting ready to take the peer recovery coach training.
Oh, cool.
And COVID stopped that because he was scheduled to do it, and now they're going to be doing it over Zoom. But because he wants to help other people. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's on Social Security, you know, but he's happy. He's resilient. He bounced back from so many different things. And I think that's why we're resilient. Because of our staff, because of our clients, and because of, you know, the goals that we set for ourselves.
That makes so much sense. Pretty much anyone who has the courage to walk through your door for the first time is exhibiting resiliency simply by saying, I feel I'm worthy of something different, of some change, and I'm willing to ask for support in doing that.
We found that, you know, sometimes you just have to peel back the layers. You know, we had a, and I've done trainings with the staff. We did a training about like the entitled client. It's like how some folks feel like, gosh, this person just comes in and they're loud and they're demanding and they're. Bottom line is that sometimes that's the only way they've been able to get their needs met. Sometimes people don't see them unless they're loud. We look at a lot of our clients that we don't know their whole backstory and find the reason why they are how they are and help them recognize that you don't have to be that way. You know, somebody hears you, somebody sees you. And so, yeah, I think it's really important, like, you know, you've been to our office, that we have a lot of artwork that reflects the community. It looks like we have a villagey kind of look with the colors that we use and, you know, the couches. We're the only organization, one of the only organizations, if not the only, where you don't have to get buzzed in. You know, you just walk in and you're in the middle of a living room. You can get food out of the kitchen. You can, you know, it's a place where people that maybe were not welcome in their home have a home. So,
wonderful, Imani. Oh, thank you so much for sharing more about the organization and your work and how you all are coping through these times. How can people, if they want to support you or get involved in some way, how can they do that?
Well, you know what? We are the website, which is ittakesavillagecolorado.org, is being revamped right now by the Cape Creative Agency. They're totally revamping our website
Cool.
to be able. It's amazing, but it's well overdue to be able to take donations. But at this point, right now, it's just a matter of mailing us money.
Okay.
We also could always use volunteers in terms of folks that are willing to sit for a shift on the reception desk, or even who might be willing to drive a client to an appointment.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, there's a lot of different opportunities for volunteering.
That's great. So if you have the resources to contribute, you could find the address at ittakesavillagecolorado.org. And if you have time to contribute, there's opportunities for that as well.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Well, I so appreciate you taking the time. I know this is a busy and overwhelming time for you and the organization in general. So thank you so much. I look forward to sharing this conversation with the community and with other folks who are interested in learning more about both how nonprofits can be resilient during challenging times, but also how specifically they can support It Takes a Village and your work. So thank you so much, Imani.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
That's
Take
my
care
pleasure.
of yourself.
You
All right.
too.
Bye.